And hello, and welcome to today's Get in Tune. We're going to be doing something I think is really fun. It's going to be some character design. So let's get right to the intro, and then let's get right to talking about character design. So thank you. I'm back. And today I want to kind of springboard off of where we were at last time. Last time I went over classic comic strip characters. I kind of showed you how Hagar the Horrible was built and Beetle Belly. I think I did Charlie Brown and what are the others? Calvin and Hobbes. All right. I even showed you some books. And that's actually how I want to start today before we get into drawing. The reason I want to talk about and show you the books before we get into the drawing today is because, like I said, I want to talk a little bit about character design for comic strips. I decided after the last stream I did that it would be fun to actually make a comic with you guys. So today we're talking about the idea stage, and we're going to we'll do some character concepts. I have a few ideas for comics I've never made before. So I'm gonna use those ideas and talk about how they came to be and show you some designs. Then I'll do them on the screen and show you. But first, when you're coming up with the idea, they always say write what you know. So if you know about monsters, you can make it a story about monsters, but you can make it a funny story. I mentioned my friend Francis, who draws the Suburban Fairytales, and he has fairy tale characters. So there's humans, there's wooden puppets like Pinocchio, the three little pigs, things that appear in fairy tales. So there's so many things populating. He can draw almost anything, and there's think about the type of stories you could tell. Now, one of the things Francis does when he does his book, and I'm just looking for it right here that I can pull out. I apologize. I have a lot of cartooning books here to show. I'm not going to go through each and every one, but since I'm talking about this one, let me just pull it out. So remember here, this is Suburban Fairytales. It is the like I said, the fairy tale character. So on the front is like Rapunzel with the Frog Prince. All right, if we can look in here and there's a witch right there, which I don't know exactly which story she's from, but we got the three little pigs right there. So if you know fairy tales and nursery rhymes, that's a perfect place to start. If you know if you like adventure stories, this is an old Mickey Mouse book. His strips going back, I think this goes back to the 20s or early 30s. And these were published in the newspaper. And these were actually more adventure-like comics. So I know it's hard to see, but you can find this online there. You can't really, like on Amazon to purchase. Disney had other stuff here. Donald Duck had a strip for a while, and Donald's strip, this is another adventure story. It's him and his nephews. This is a colored book. These are things you could think about. This is adventure. Silly Symphonies, some of Disney's first animations. And you can see on the back here, this book features like Bambi comics and the Three Caballeros and so many different things. So there's a lot of stuff. I showed you a few adventure, but this might be one of the greatest syndicated strips of all time, dating back decades. Pogo, which is obviously no longer around, but it's about a bunch of characters in the swamp. It was created by Walt Kelly. And one of the great things about Walt, and specifically his writing, was that he wanted to make it look like or read like, you know, these characters had accents coming down from the South. You want to do a humor story about maybe a wizard, like I did my character, the Wiz. This is the Wizard of Id. All right. Another comedic piece here. It takes place, you know, basically in medieval times for the most part. Uh-oh, dropped something. You know, and there's a little bit of intellectual stuff with it. The book Wizard of Id and the book BC, the comic BC, right here, were both part of Johnny Hart's creation. And Johnny Hart, I don't know him personally, so I can't speak a lot about him, but he seems that the way his comics were written and drawn, there was an intelligence to it that weren't in a lot of comics. It was, I don't want to use the term political because there wasn't, that I remember, a lot of politics in it, but it was, you know, very in the mind. And I think that's important. You know, exploring, you know, the psyche of people and how people behave. I love that type of stuff. So yeah, you can see there's a bunch of different types of comics out there. Now, again, I said write what you know, right? Personally, I like animals. I like stories about magic. I do like adventure stories. I also love cooking. You know, so I could do a comic about cooking if I wanted to. Or because I love animals so much and I love drawing animals, I might do something about characters in a zoo or in a forest or in a jungle, depending on the type of characters that I want to draw. You know, I like, you know, I have a lot of varied interests. I love mythology. So if I did a strip about mythological creatures, like, or not even just creatures, but characters, where, say, Hercules can meet Thor, you know, and it's just them going out to lunch or something. So where all these different mythological characters cross over, you know, I could do things with like fairies and gnomes and elves and give it that Lord of the Rings feel that I love so much. But it could just be stripped out characters hanging out, you know. We're going to switch over to my excuse me, to my drawing pad now, and I'm going to show you something. But give me 1 second. I just need to turn my fan on. It's getting hot in my studio. Okay. All right, I'm back, and oops, I hit the button on the wrong screen. And I'm back over here, right? I'm going to choose a new color to work in, just so we can see it different when I go over it in ink. And I was thinking, I like that idea of the mythological characters. I actually wrote a comic a while back dealing with mythology that I still have to draw. But it really is big into myth. So I want to keep my character and my character shapes simple. Now maybe I need to create an introductory character that isn't from the reality of myth. So maybe I have a kid, let's say, right? So I'm going to give him maybe a rectangle head, and I'll give him a small neck, and let's give him a tiny. And you notice here, all these are kind of rectangles I'm using, right? I think that's too long of legs for him. I think if he's a kid, he should have shorter legs. So you notice there are rectangles here, and I got ovals. Now, this character that I'm drawing, I've never drawn before. He's, you you know, like I've had the ideas to do stories about mythology, but I've never drawn the character. So I always start with kind of this template. All right. My template could be like this up here. Let's maybe make, let me just erase this. Where's the eraser tool? Here it is. Let's make it bigger. And go back to the brush. I'm going to bring my brush size down a bit. I feel it's a little thick. I could have something where this is my template. So it's kind of more round, and now it can be more heroic. So this could be what my heroic characters always look like, you know, and I'll change them up if I need a heavy set or a really thin person or a woman, because a woman wouldn't look like that. Maybe for a woman, I might do something more like so. Those are kind of thick legs. I'd like to thin that out a bit. Now I'll just put her hands on her hips for now. All right. So you can see here, I got these templates, and on another layer in a different color, and I do this, I've done this with tracing paper as well. Let's go to a color that we can see different. Let's bring it down a little higher up. So like I can come in now and just kind of play with features. So I'm going to give him a big kind of goofy smile, right? I'll give him some ears. Maybe because it's the, you know, it's mythological times, maybe I'll put him in a toga. He could be barefoot. He could have sandals on. Maybe let's give him some, you know, those sandals they tied up. And so you see, and we can do other things. Maybe I'll give him a little necklace that he wears. Maybe he'll have a headband on. And we'll give him his hair coming out. And we'll give him some freckles. So you see, I got this kid who, if I turn off the background right now, all we do is see that. So I didn't really draw the rest, but I can come in and quickly, you know, define him. Maybe wear some cuffs, you know, like, I'm just going to quickly draw out some hands for him. Let's draw out his legs. Okay. So you see here, I got this character that can be used. He could be a kid just walks around the town. That's known. He could just be, he could be the character that we follow through the land of myth. You know, maybe he's new to the town or the world or something, and we see things through his eyes. It's important. Whoops, too big of an eraser. What some people have done, and this is the reason like sidekicks for superheroes come in, like Robin was created. It's because they want their audience, they knew their audience was kids, right? So they wanted kids to kind of be able to relate. Well, not everyone can relate to being an adult and a billionaire like Bruce Wayne, but maybe you can relate to being a little kid like Dick Grayson, who then becomes Robin, and you could see yourself through Robin's eyes and bring you into the comic. So things like that were the reason, you know, we got kid superheroes and sidekicks and stuff. And a lot of stories will do that and put a character like that in. So let's go over here. All right, I'm going to drop the opacity on this layer a little bit. And I'm going to go back. This way I can see it better. Now, I'm going to draw two different types of heroic characters here. I'm sorry, I'm reading reading one of the comments here. It's from Noah. It says, "Hi, Michael. Sorry for coming late. We had 3 Baltimore Orioles come by for the first time, and an albino white squirrel that has come about 2 months now has come for a chat. We named him Whitey." That's awesome. That's really awesome. All right. So to catch you up, Noah, what we're doing is I'm talking about designing characters, and I used this light orange that's on a separate layer, but you guys can do on a piece of paper, and then use tracing paper or a light box or your window on a bright day and draw over and use these characters as templates, you know, these shapes as templates here. So if I was to draw Hercules, you know, because this is mythology, what would I think Hercules would look like? Well, he was a Greek demigod. He, you know, back then they all basically had beards, so he's going to have a beard, right? Is he going to be goofy looking? Is he going to be heroic? What am I going to do? So I'm going to probably, you know, I draw my eyes like the parentheses with the dots inside. That's just my style. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him kind of regular eyebrows, maybe a little thicker than I would. But I'm going to humor him up. So I'm going to give him a big nose like that, which is the backwards letter C. And you'll see one of his ears over here. I don't know if we'll see the other one right now. But I'm going to just create some very, almost like I'm making a cloud. And inside, he's going to have kind of a bushy kind of beard. And I'm going to give him, and the reason I'm doing this, I picture him kind of with a kind of bushy, curly type of hair. You know, and this will be over here so we know it's his ear. All right. And I'm going to give him big muscles by adding curved lines coming down. Yeah. I'm going to give him a big belt. Now, there's lots of different stories on Hercules, and he had his 12 labors, and I may want to consider that into some of his design. We can go Togo-like, we can go, you know, like leather armor if you want. So maybe I could do leather pants with boots on. I could do more of, yeah, there's a lot I can do. I don't know how I want to go about it, but I'm not going to give him a neck because I'm going to, even though I'm using this as a template, I'm going to go a little higher so it looks like, let me see if I like that. You know what? I don't like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to erase. And I'm going to give him his neck. I do like the idea of the neck. But when I come over here to his shoulder, I'm going to bump out his shoulder and over here. And let me get the eraser out here. And I'm going to give him a lot of curvy, bumpy areas of muscles, you know? Okay. But I'm not going to do that to his legs because it adds to the humor. So I think I'm going to leave him shirtless. I think I want to give him a necklace. And the reason I give a lot of my characters, you know, like necklaces and armbands, and which I'm going to give to Hercules too because I like that look. There was a cartoon studio when I was a kid called Hanna-Barbera. They made a lot of my favorite cartoons. They created Yogi Bear, the Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, all these great cartoons. And they created this process called limited animation because when cartoons were animated for the screen, for feature films back like with Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny and that, they would do what we call full motion animation. But when they moved to TV, they couldn't afford to do all that full motion. So they would make what they call breaks in these characters. So if you look at, and I'll do a quick over here, then I'm going to erase it. You look at Fred Flintstone, right? And then here's just a quick Fred. We get that whole thing. This right here is a break. This line that came in and broke him up from his collar, because they can leave the picture of his body over here and just redraw the head. We even had these little lines here where his arms could be. So you leave that little line here and then you just redraw the arm. So I like to make breaks because sometimes, even though I'm doing comics, I think in the terms of animation design sometimes. I also like the idea that if I wanted to animate them, I could, and it'd be easy for me. So that's just a matter of preference. What I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to give Hercules almost, I don't want to say like a loincloth like Tarzan would wear, but maybe I have something coming down like so, and then I'd have his legs, and he'll wear the same type of sandals as the kid. And again, this is my design. You could change it up for whatever you want. And I'm going to put the sandals. We'll cover the bit of the toes right there, and there you go. Same thing here. Now, I don't know if these are proper old Greek sandals. I really don't. Let me zoom out so you can see them. I have no clue about that. What I do know is that right now I'm kind of happy with the design. However, doesn't mean this is how it's going to stay. I'll put a little like wrinkle in there. And now what I'm going to do is maybe just draw the female. And I'll start with a curved line here. I think she should have a small nose. And what I end up doing is I add a couple of eyelashes closer to the bottom. Give her a smile. If you want to add lipstick, you can. I'm just going to have her hair come down. She's going to have long, wavy hair. All right. I'm going to flesh out her body. But her body, she'll be wearing a dress. It's more toga-like. So it'll come down, and maybe there's some wrap around in there. Little belt to tie it together. Sleeves. There's her hands. I'll do that. Maybe I'll give her a couple of bracelets over here. On this one here, I'll come down. Maybe this hand, she doesn't wear bracelets, but maybe she's got kind of an armband. And we'll give her, she'll be wearing flats. So I got these simplified characters here. Not sure, honestly. Whoops, wrong one. Not sure if I'm 100% happy with them. Whoops. You guys tell me if you like it in the comments. They're not bad. But are they the type of story you want to tell? Do they fit the style? I could actually, let's remove these guys. And right now I'm just talking about design. None of these are going to be 100%, guaranteed. But what if I wanted to do Hercules kind of like that Hagar? Now, I don't want to copy Hagar, but let's say he's kind of got this big hairy beard. Maybe I'm going to give him a little headband, and he's got hair that sticks out, and he's very messy, you know? And his body, though, is just this big thing here. So yeah, he might be, and I'm going with the toga look right now, kind of like Hagar, right? Let's undo this. All right, let's bring his hand like that. This hand will be out like so, right? You know, that could be Hercules. What if we do another version of him right here? And I don't like that. And maybe I research old Greek culture and I look at their artwork, and I know one of the things with it, they give flat noses, and maybe he's got a circular eye here, and his beard kind of looks, it's a little bit more towards, you know, what the Greeks did artistically. I'm going to give him that headband again because I just like that design, and they seem to have used it on some things in the Greek culture, you know. And I just make them very graphic here, and when I mean that, I mean very flat, angled, you know. So, and we'll go with that toga look again. Let's have that come down, and we'll bring it up over this way. So you see, there's a lot of different ideas. Now, one of the things that we could also talk about, and we'll do another one of the other, I mentioned Thor. Now, one of the things I love about drawing mythological creatures and characters is because they fall into, let me switch over so I can just talk. I'm not going to draw for a moment. They fall into what we call public domain. We have characters that are licensed characters that are copywritten, that are owned by companies like Mickey Mouse is owned by Disney, and Bugs Bunny is owned by Warner Brothers, and Spider-Man is owned by Marvel Comics, and so forth. But being in public domain means no one owns them, and you can use them whenever you want to use them. Excuse me. But there are certain conditions. Now, we know that Marvel Comics has a character named Thor. They also have Hercules, but they do a lot with Norse mythology, and they use Loki, who's, the trickster. They use Odin, who is the father of the gods there, or the all-powerful god. And then you got Thor. Thor is the hero god. Now, they made Thor with blonde hair. He has a winged helmet. He has his mallet, or hammer. But they also gave him his design. It's probably better if I just draw it to explain it. So if we look at Marvel's Thor, we're going to see some guy with a helmet, right? And I'm not going to draw a great picture here. He's got his long hair. Sometimes they give him a blonde, a beard. But traditionally, this is Thor from the original comics. Right? You have these big knee things, and then so, and here he is with I'm blanking on his name of his hammer. Um, it's funny because I know it all the time, and right now I'm just blanking. And here's his hammer, right? So we all know that's, and no, we can't forget about his cape. We all know that's kind of Marvel's Thor right there, right? But traditionally, from what I understand of things that I have read and whatnot, and this, I could be false again, because when you're dealing with myths, it's passed down until it's written down. It's passed down orally, meaning people tell the story until they actually write it down, and then, hey, it's written down. Was that the actual way? Is it's the writers change stuff? Whatever. Anyway, Thor may have red hair, right? That Viking helmet is not really the Viking helmet they gave the Thor in Marvel. Isn't, I mean, it kind of feels like a Viking helmet, but there were a lot that kind of came down and protected the nose and had these eye masks here, and this goes through my research of looking at things. So the eyes would be coming through there, right? And maybe it had horns, maybe it had the wings, I don't know. I'll do some more metallic wings like this, right? I don't know. It could have some design pattern in there. Whoa, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Where is my Photoshop? Give that back. There we go. But he also had a beard, and he may have had red hair. Also, Vikings kind of came down. They weren't clean looking people, right? They may have even had it. They may even had some areas of their hair or facial hair or whatever just beat it up. They could have had it braided in some form. So there's some more traditional ideas of how Thor could look. He could still have the long hair, right? So this Thor right here is a no. We cannot use him. But this Thor right here, we can. And you could design him however you want. We could make Thor kind of humorous. Give him that scruffy beard and his eyes over here, and maybe he's got scruffy eyebrows too. And maybe you give him horns instead of the wings, right? You see, so you can have his chest come out. He could be a fat guy. He could be really heroic. So he was more of a hero of a character. So they also dressed in furs too. So maybe he has furs over his shoulders to protect them, or maybe has some kind of metallic thing. His cape, if you want to give him a cape, could be fur. So again, this is public domain. So characters that come in mythology like Thor, Hercules, Odin, any mythology is not copywritten for the most part. Same thing goes with fairy tales. However, characters like Peter Pan are copyrighted, so you can't use Peter Pan per se. And through research on the internet, even monsters, you can use. You want to do a vampire story? Do a vampire story. Do a Frankenstein monster story. Do a werewolf story. Put them all together. They're not copywritten. And you could do a story about them maybe as kids going to school or at the playground or something like that. So let's get back to where we were. I don't even remember what layer I was working on. So we had the little kid, the Hercules, and this woman here. Not 100% happy with the design. So I might go a little different. And I might play with a look for the kid. And I'm just kind of going, and sometimes I don't like to use the shapes just because I want to play. And this is me playing right now. But the shapes are always there. I'm thinking about it as I do it. And I'm going to do that. And maybe I'll give him some spiky hair like that. I think I like that already better. Give him a couple of freckles. You know what? Nope. I'm not going to give him freckles. I'm going to put a couple up here, like he has a shaved head and it looks like stubble on the side. For his body, I'm just going to use something like so. And I'm going to bring his legs down. And I'm going to create some ovals here for his feet. And I'm going to use curved lines for his arms, put a circle for his hand, and add in the fingers, right? Now I could kind of come in and create that toga look. I'll put that there. There he is. Maybe I'll even give him a toga that is on both sides. And what I want to do, and it's hard to see at the moment because I've been because I've been drawing so much over it, is by creating this angle, it looks like it's being tucked into some pants or something, or not pants, but being tied by a belt. I don't know if you guys can see that. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of erasing because I think that comes out too much. So you see how it looks like the clothes kind of came out there, and maybe I'll do, so those are some pleats. I liked what I gave him the last time. Okay, and I think this time I'm going to see his toes. So big toe, small, small, little. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just thicken up the bottom here, and I'm going to create parts for the sandal. So that's the big toe there. That goes out like that. Oh, you guys can't see it, it looks like. I'm sorry. I don't know why there's those little glitches, but that's what I did. And I think I like this design better for the kid, right? Whoops. I always do that. Hit the wrong button. There we go. Now, for the next one, Hercules. I think what I want to do is I want to make him tall. I'm going to make him about that tall, I think. So like up around here would be the top of his head. So I'm going to come in with his eyes, and he'll be looking down at the kid. And actually, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's do this. I'm going to kind of give him a big nose. That's a little thin. I want it to be kind of fat like that. And I'm going to put these little U's and put his eyebrows up like that. It looks like his eyes are closed. What I want to do with Hercules here is make him look a bit conceited. So I'm going to give him a smile, and then when I give him his body on this side, he's going to be showing off his muscles. And he'll be doing that over here. So shoulder, muscle. And I think I want to give his muscles a little bit more over there. And I'm just going to use some circles right now for the hands. I'll draw the hands later. All right. And I'm just going to give him, I like that loincloth idea thing. So I'm going to give his legs, going to make them thin because that adds to the humor. And I think I'm going to do the sandals type of thing. Or, you know, maybe he won't even have sandals. He's so strong he can walk and not have to worry about stepping on things and getting hurt. Right? Now, what else? One of the things I always liked was the story of his 12 labors and how he defeated the Nemean lion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw these kind of shapes here, these little pieces, and they're going to attach together. And what this is actually going to be is the lion he defeated. So he's wearing the lion's skin. And the tail of the lion would be coming out over here. You know, and maybe we can see the lion's head back here. And it doesn't have to be, you know, now he defeated it, he wears it, you know, technically he killed the lion, but as a part of the joke, you can make it that the lion isn't dead and he talks, he has a conversation with Hercules, you know, but he just hangs out there now because Hercules defeated him. So now he has to sit on, you know, walk around all the time on Hercules. All right. You see how I'm kind of coming up with these ideas. Now, these are things that could be done in the story, right? Now that I have an idea of how I want Hercules to look, what can we do? All right. Hold on. Sorry, I need a sip of water, all the talking. Now let's think about story ideas. This kind of tells you a little bit about Hercules, at least my opinion on him in this story, that he's super strong. His attitude and position looks like he's conceited. He's got an ego about himself. He likes to show off, which is fine for his character, you know? But what about if we made him, even though he's super strong, he's not so bright. So when he shows off, he's showing off for the wrong reason. Like maybe he thought he did something good, but he didn't do something correct. You know, like maybe he went to fight off the bad guy, but actually helped them instead. And they showing off and look what I've done. You know, so those are stories you can build around the Hercules character here, the dumb Hercules. And this could be Hercules' sidekick that follows him around and actually makes sure that Hercules does the right thing. We can give them a pet. It's mythology. So what if he had kind of like a griffin, right? And it doesn't have to be large, but it can be. Now you guys know what a griffin is, right? It's a kind of a bird on a lion's body. So I'm just going to do something like a hawk or something. And I'm going to give him the lion's body right here. And we can just make it very cartoony. If you want to make the legs look real, you know, get a picture of what a lion's body looks like, right? I'll come in with the lion's tail. And we could have the wings right here. And the other one's right there. So now they could have a griffin, and that griffin could add to the story. The griffin could love to eat and or follows Hercules around wherever he goes and makes his life, you know, annoying. He just annoys and destroys Hercules' life, you know, and doesn't mean to. He thinks he's helping out. So, or he could be working with the kid, and the kid and the griffin could always be really making sure Hercules is always doing the right thing. So, let's see. Oh, you said an eagle on a lion's body. Yeah, basically the same thing. But yeah, and they're one of your favorite mythological animals. Mine too. I love them. It's been a while since I've drawn them. I actually have a story I wrote a while back that the griffin is basically a star of, and I just haven't done anything with it. I have a lot of stories I've written over the years, but I can write a story in one day or in an hour or something, but it's going to take me a month or 3 months or more to draw it, you know? So I haven't jumped on a lot of the stories. I'm working slowly on them. But thanks, Noah. So yeah, these are things. So now how do we come up with story ideas when we, you know, sometimes looking at the character, like I said, I have a personality now for Hercules that can help me write stories. But I take stories from things that happen. I observe when I go out in public. I observe people. I write from experiences that I've had. I base characters' personalities on friends of mine. So I look at a friend, I'm like, ooh, he's got an interesting personality, you know, to him. Maybe I'll base a character, you know, Hercules on his character. Excuse me. So that's what you got to think. So what I'm going to do next time, because I'm going to end in a few minutes, what I'm going to do next time with you guys is I'm going to have kind of a fleshed out idea, whether it's this mythology story or, whoops, sorry, or something else that I've ideas that I've had. I'll come in on Monday with a developed story and character, and I'll show you how I write comics. And we're going to work on comic strips right now over comic books. The comic books take a long time to produce. Comic strips are a little easier. But I truly, truly love strips. I've always been more of a strip guy over being a comic book guy. I would rather read Calvin and Hobbes than Superman, but I love Superman, you know, so I still read it, but it's just, I like the idea of comic strips. And you can go on websites like comics.com and other places to read comics, you know, throughout the week, the day. It's a fantastic, fantastic website. And they may inspire. Now, I'm going to just pull out some more of these comics here. Ideas like, where is it here? Okay, look. I got John Romita and Stan Lee's Spider-Man. These are strips from January 3rd, 1977 to January 28th, 1979. Excuse me. So, you like superheroes? We got superhero stories. And notice that they're only doing maybe 3 or 4 panels per strip. There's just multiple on the pages here. And it's a good way to get used to telling stories and only do a short amount here. We looked at Garfield the other day, just to pull out Garfield again. Garfield always works in 3 panels. That's just a rule they use. They don't use more than 3 panels. And also, every second panel doesn't have a border. So it's a style decision. It's a thought in how we make stuff here. So everything is a matter of, a lot of this is a matter of choice. Tons and tons of different ways. I recommend you, again, getting story ideas from things you know, playing video games if that's what it is, playing sports, hanging out at school with friends in the lunchroom. It could be taking place every day at lunch/recess. You could do, you know, but maybe you like things like this, mythology or fantasy with magic characters, and you like things like Lord of the Rings or whatever, and you want to play some, you know, you're all hanging out at school, and maybe in this school in the medieval, people train to be a knight and some people train to be a wizard and blah, 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 whatever, you know, and everyone gets together at lunch, and it doesn't matter what you do, and you just all get together and play and hang out. But maybe like the wizards, you know, some wizards could cheat with their magic in playing games. I'm just looking around my room at characters that I have out all over the place. Let me see, what can you see here? All right, here. These little guys, that's Pinkie and the Brain. They were characters in the 90s from a show called Animaniacs before they broke off on their own, which you can watch on Hulu. And it's about Pinkie's the tall, where is it? The tall, thin mouse. And Brain is the shorter one. And the Brain just wants to take over the world. That's his goal, take over the world. And Pinkie is not bright. And Pinkie sometimes causes issues, but at the end of the day, Pinkie always had a good heart, and he always means well, and he really, you know, loves his friendship with the Brain, that he's always willing to try to help his friend. You know, so it's a fantastic story. The cartoons were great. They made comic books on them. I own a few. But this is a great idea, and it's about two friends, one who's loyal and not so bright, and the other one who's just kind of in his own world and wants to do his own thing, but his other friend helps him, tries his best to help him succeed. You know, that could be something. What else? What else? I just want to give you ideas to think about. I don't know. I got way too many things. You like video games? We got a Mega Man here. What about a Mega Man character to, or not Mega Man himself, because you don't want to use copywritten characters. What about a video game character who's basically a robot, a humanized robot or something? But how do you make him different from Mega Man? You know, I like the idea of going public domain. It's just my preference with characters when I can't come up with ideas. I always tell people, you know, when you're coming up with ideas and you can't think of something, go look at the public domain. Look at fairy tale characters. Look at these monsters. Look at these, you know, other characters, mythological characters. And how do you make them different from what we know about them? You know, like we know, looking at Hercules in his stories, if you read them, it's not always the nicest guy. But we make him out to be the hero because that's what he is. He's a strong guy. He, you know, he's doing the right thing, but he isn't always the number one, like, nice guy. And we make stories about him being incredibly nice. We make it about his strength. We do a lot of stuff that we change up to make it fit ourselves. So if you want to do humor, how do we make him kind of goofy to make the humor work? You know what I mean? So I'm going to end now, but take a look at these ideas, because I'm not going to draw. You don't have to draw the comic I'm creating, but I want you to create your own comic. So think about, what do you know? What do you like to write about? Or what do you like to do that you can write about because you know it? Go on the website comics.com and read comics on there to see how people, you know, draw and tell their stories, or their jokes, you know, and then maybe think about using these type of characters that anyone could use to tell your story, or create your own characters, you know, of you and your friends and whatever, you know. So I'm going to end there. I want to thank everybody for joining today who watched and asked questions and gave me info. Thank you. I know, Noah, you did a bunch, so thank you very much. I'll be back on Monday with a bit of a fleshed out character and somewhat of a story, so we can talk about how to write humor or an actual story. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Thanks for joining.